Hello again. Well, it's a pretty miserable wet day today, but nevertheless, doesn't mean we can't have a thought for the day. Well, early yesterday, late yesterday, I took a subscriber back to the Terminal 3 in Manila. He was flying back home to his homeland. We'll just say a European country rather than identify exactly where he came from. But he enjoyed his stay here. He came and stayed, where are we? He came on a Monday and we went back on Thursday. That's right. So he was here for 3 days, 3 and a bit days. During that 3 days, it was interesting talking to someone who's come from overseas specifically to test the waters, so to speak, to see if all of the concepts of finding a wife or a partner here in the Philippines is truly possible. I will say that he particularly has sufficient resources to treat it more like a fact-finding mission rather than a sort of desperation visit. In other words, many of us come here with very limited resources. We plan maybe a week, maybe a couple of weeks, and if we think it's going to be the right place, and often it's because they've met a woman, the first one, or often, they decide to pull up sticks and just stay here. Now, of course, that might suit some. It's probably a recipe for disaster, mind you. But what was important in his conversation, he's going through a very messy, or should I say a very prolonged divorce agreement. The laws of his country mean that it takes maybe up to 6 to 7 months just to get a hearing in front of a judge. And as you well know, the other party, whether it's he or her, can delay these things for many years just simply through belligerence, maybe fear, and the resolve is forever waiting for a result. Now, for him, not only has he come to the Philippines, he told no one he was coming here. He did it so that he was able to make his own judgments without the scorn of others and family members. And I think that was a good idea because so much is talked about the Philippines in the sense that it's a mecca. No disrespect to Mecca itself, but it's a mecca, a magnet, maybe, for people desiring to create a new life with someone they believe is going to be the perfect person for that next part of their journey in life. And therefore, the Philippines has got itself a reputation of a place where you'll find a wife, hopefully. One that can speak English, one that has a similar culture, as they believe, to that of Western ways. Maybe not so much the culture, but certainly a general understanding of Westerners. I say that from the point of view that many of you also choose Thailand or Cambodia as a place to retire and to take or marry a local. And of course, in Thailand you have a major language problem, alongside obviously the religious and cultural aspects of the country. Thailand, as many of you will probably be aware now, is subject to the loss of a current Prime Minister, and therefore, once again, Thailand is thrown into turmoil. And Thailand has a history of unsettled, we'll say, politics. So therefore, many of the things that become or befall foreigners often are driven purely by not common sense, but purely political reasons. Could say, of course, immigration in itself is driven by politics. But that's not the reason for my thought for the day. My thought for today is about the concept of looking for signs within your relationship that you believe is going nowhere, that is, in effect, stumbling. It may be months, it might be years, but nevertheless, there's often a situation where one or both parties alienate themselves from each other. They do it for whatever general reasons they feel is necessary, but is it helpful? I don't think so. He often describes the last maybe 2.5 years since he filed for his divorce, when he used to come down and say good morning in a pleasant, cheerful way to his wife. And one day she decided no longer to speak to him. So he now lives in a house where the kids have grown up, they've moved into their own apartments, and he and his wife share what you would call the family home. A very sticky, very unpleasant in many ways situation. But of course, those that have been in that situation, myself included, I shared a property, my last property, not here in the Philippines, but that's another story. But I shared a farm where one side of the house was hers and one side was mine. In fact, when I was able to qualify for my old age pension, I decided to get it into place, and therefore the situation changed where she, who had the injury, not myself, she had an injured back, and prior to that I was her carer. Now that meant that Australia allowed me to have financial support to support her. She wasn't entitled to it herself because she was on accident compensation. So that enabled her to, I suppose, have someone on tap to look after her. As it turned out, I later discovered, just through being the one that was asked to do all the correspondence and talking to family members, that I realised I'd been sucked into a drama that I didn't have any part in, except to be the voice to the authorities. And soon became aware that I was a part of a scam that I didn't realise was a scam. But over time I realised all of the things she used to say about her back. There was no doubt she had a back discomfort, but to the degree that she claimed was definitely a lot less than what it really was. In the end, she was able to get a lump sum payment. She had support for life on a disability pension, and of course she got some of the proceeds of the farm that we sold. She was in Happy Street, and I was on the other side of the coin, looking for another direction in life. I had enough of putting my 110% into life and a family, in terms of the family being the unit of myself, her, and her son, who was an adult. But I found that I spent too much time worrying about others instead of focusing on what my needs were. And I think this is my friend. We'll call him Zap. Very similar name, but Zap. Now, Zap is a very clever, very intelligent man. And he has got many, many amazing attributes. And he's only 62. But he has got it together. But emotionally, it's a new journey for him because after 40-something years of marriage, he's had enough. He doesn't see any purpose in the relationship anymore. And the problem is that whilst he claims, and I believe him, he has affection, I think he did use the word love on a few occasions, but he clearly cares about the lady. She's in her around the same age. They met when they were 18, I believe. And you just can't dispense with all of that time. Time, in many ways, is not only a healer, as they say, but it's also a reason to not be so hasty, not to be so impulsive that you throw away all that well-worn period of your life. And I think that a lot of us come from torn relationships, times in their lives when really they should have spent a little bit more time to ask themselves, what is the meaning of life? And I don't mean the Monty Python kind, but really you have to stop and think. Each time you give up and you have to start again, and many of us do, many men and some of course women, but we have to start from scratch. You know, both of you might have an income, both of you might have a career, a profession, but to sell the family home, to divide the assets, is to reduce one's own future by half, because together you did it in whole. So therefore the journey that you were both on had a meaning, a purpose, not only spiritually, relationship-wise, romance-wise, certainly financially. And I think that there are a lot of you that come to the Philippines that in a way are running away from something, no longer prepared to face the difficult times. You know, I know there's going to be ones where the women are cheating on you, or maybe they've just moved on emotionally, and you just feel, what's the point? You know, why should I waste my life with this bit of dead wood? But what I'm really talking about is that unless you clear the deck completely, none of us can really truly say we've moved on. We have to effectively look for those last final words. Not the ones done in anger, not the ones done in spite, but the ones thought out, the ones that have come, I suppose, from the heart, from the conscious mind, that the consequences of what we are doing together. Because it doesn't always involve the husband and wife, the boy and girlfriend, or the partners collectively. More than that, it affects the family as a whole, and I'm meaning brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, because the dynamics change completely, as they do with your own children. And even when it comes to children, you get so many condemning comments from people when you talk about abandoning your children. Well, you're not really abandoning, you're moving on in your life. You abandon them if you no longer talk to them. You abandon them if you refuse to answer their call. But The idea that somehow you should be taking care of your adult children. Now they've moved into the workplace, they're saving for a house or buying a new car. Most of them do that without your help. They do it because they have pride in showing you what they've achieved. Their own achievements in life are important to them. Sure, many of them, I'm sure, in this day and age also hope that they might get a little bonus when you pop your clogs. That's the reality of life. But why should you feel guilty that you're now focusing on the new life that you're going to have here in the Philippines? Sure, you can make mention of them in your will, you can put aside certain amounts, but generally speaking, many of us have done our bit for our children. We've brought them up, we've educated them, they become adults, they become men and women that you now talk with. And their expectation that dad should somehow work, put aside all of his pension money now so that they can benefit when he dies, I think is a rather fruitless point to take. Your focus now is on your Filipina, the one you have decided to make your life with. And no matter how hard it is to achieve that, you have to persevere much more with a Filipino than you would maybe with someone of your own tongue. And I say that because also here in the Philippines, there are guys out here, many of them are American channels, painting a picture of paradise here. Your El Dorado, the place that you can find this beautiful woman who will be there for you every moment of your living life. And that's, like anywhere in the world, not true. They have the same aspirations maybe, or maybe different, but they certainly have a totally different way of looking at life. And until you discover whether you can fit within that framework of their beliefs, their aspirations, and maybe add a little bit more to those dreams for her, you are not going to truly be the one for them. So my thought for the day has ended. The rain has stopped. Maybe it was listening as well. Because all the best for the rest of this week, and I hope you have a nice weekend. And stay tuned. Bye now.